amazing ladies in business. Welcome to the HerStory podcast. I'm your host, Kylie King, the founder of Australian Ladies in Business Initiative, and I am so excited today to be joined by the incredible graphic designer and founder of the Chaos Agency, Rosie Cass. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to hear all of your amazingness. Like I was just reading through your bio, and it says that you are a TikTok scroller, a vintage camera collector, and you love and loves a cheeky Marge. Is that a margarita, I'm guessing?
Margarita, yep.
Good, awesome. So I'm like, I am so excited to have you on board. So I guess for those who haven't read your bio and they're listening for the first time, and this is the first time getting to know you, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you, what you do, and what Chaos Agency does, which I absolutely love the name, by the way.
Thank you. So I'm Rosie. I am a graphic designer. I have been working as a graphic designer for, well, maybe 9 or 10 years now. I've worked my way through the industry from graphic design in e-commerce business, working for as the graphic designer at JD Sports. And then I moved into advertising, doing more digital out of home stuff. And then eventually I met my now business partner, Rachel, who is amazing. And we both had the itch. We've always had the itch, I think, to do our own thing. And we decided, let's just do it. Let's give it a crack. And now here we are. Chaos Agency is a full service creative design agency. We specialize in brand design and brand strategy specifically, but we do pretty much everything from visual identity, print design, motion design, website design, packaging, any sort of design services, we do it at Chaos Agency.
Beautiful. That's awesome. So I guess you were so JD Sports, that was sort of like a corporate background. How are you finding it sort of leaving there and then doing, I guess, working with small businesses? Are you seeing much of a difference or?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. I think particularly working for JD Sports was you're working for the one client, whereas now I'm working with a bunch of different businesses, which is really fun. But I found that I fell into a bit of a one of my lecturers at uni used to call it a Mac monkey position, which is where you kind of become somebody who's just, you're working through a queue of jobs that you don't have a lot of creative input in. And now I kind of get the freedom to work with a bunch of different businesses, which is really, really fun on a bunch of different projects and have way more creative input, which is, yeah, it's been incredible.
Awesome. I guess it would be because I think that's the difference with a lot of small businesses and with the larger businesses is the larger businesses have their style guide down pat, right? So they can be
Yes.
very specific in what fonts they want, not only the fonts and the colors, but also like what size font here and where the logo can be used and it can't be used. And a lot of small businesses don't tend to sort of worry about that until they become larger. And then they go, okay, we've got to get our details in point. Like there's a lot of small businesses that will use, whatever fonts are available. Or in the case of logos, they maybe just use a Canva logo and don't realize things like the importance of resolution or the importance of all like vector files and all of that until they're starting to upscale where they need to make signs or they need to do bigger marketing or they need to be have a consistent brand image.
Yeah, absolutely. With JD Sports specifically, because they're a UK-based brand, a lot of their brand guidelines and campaign guidelines are all directly coming from the UK. So it's not even like I was able to work on a team of creatives, like I was getting fed a lot of different style guides that I was working off. So most of the stuff that I had creative input in was just within a very tight set of guidelines and mostly socials, website design, that sort of thing.
I can understand the whole Mac monkey thing then. I get
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that I worked many years in retail and it was, the whole like it's Mother's Day, now it's Easter, now it's Christmas, like the same sort of put this sign up, put this sign up. So I can understand that. And how have you found now as a joining up with your amazing business partner for Chaos Agency and sort of dipping your toe into all the different small businesses? Is there any type of industry that you've felt more aligned to or more fun to work in?
I think when we first started, we had this big goal of going into more of apparel or beauty, fashion, that kind of thing. But that's very competitive. Everybody wants to go into that kind of business. And the more that we've picked up clients, the more we've had diversity in the people that we've had come through. And it's while we kind of expected to niche down into a particular industry, we've ended up with this really diverse portfolio of clients and people, which has just been such an incredible experience and really fun to work on. And so I don't think that we will necessarily end up niching down into a particular industry, but I suppose we'll see how we go.
But any sort of brands that you'd say like these were the most fun? I guess clothing would be great because it has that individuality. I can think like face painters and creatives. I guess there might be a struggle with their creativity crashing with your creativity, but it would be fun because there'd be lots of colors. I don't, to work with. I think that would be more fun. Do you feel like that, or you're happy with neutrals? Neutrals and professionals like lawyers are fine. Like, you don't, not too fast.
Not too fast. I definitely do like the creative businesses more. They are really fun. We have, like at the moment, for example, one of our clients is in the private wealth industry. So that's very corporate, very clean and modern, which is good. Not as fun necessarily, but it's good to work with. And then one of our other clients is a retailer that makes hair foils. They do patterns on hair foils. They are so fun to work with. We get to do a lot of motion design, animation, a lot of really fun things for their socials. So it creates a really good balance of the different type of work that we do, really.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So since becoming a business owner, what would you say has been your biggest challenge so far?
Finding balance between working on the business and working for the business. I think with the nature of a creative business in design, the workflow is very up and down. So some months will be absolutely run off our feet and, pulling all-nighters, and some months it'll be a little bit slower and we have a little bit more time to work on the business. So really trying to make sure that we can be a bit more consistent with the time that we're spending on working on our own business and growing our own business as opposed to just helping other people grow their businesses. That has definitely been a challenge that we're slowly getting better at.
Beautiful. And then if we flip it, what would you say has been your biggest achievement so far?
Um, my biggest achievement, or our biggest achievement, I think, is definitely seeing the results of the businesses that we work for, seeing them grow and achieve the goals that they set when they initially started working with us is such a nice feeling. And it's really nice to be able to see that the work that you're putting into helping these businesses is really paying off.
Beautiful. So what motivates you to get out of bed every morning? Like what keeps you going and going, like I'm ready to get up and start, working on the business or working for the business?
Um, I definitely think getting to work with so many different types of businesses. I've always been a very business oriented person ever since I was young. I always was, trying to beg my mum to start a little lemonade stand or something. And so, as somebody who's always sort of, I want to start this business and I want to start this business, I kind of get the best of all worlds. I get to have my cake and eat it too by working on so many different types of businesses. And so it is really exciting to wake up every morning and get to work on a different project or something else creative or brainstorm with the client some new really fun ideas.
Well, that sounds exciting.
It is.
And exciting. Very much more exciting than being a Mac monkey.
Yes.
So if you had a tip for a small business, like if there was a piece of advice that you wish you were given when you started, what would that be?
So this one's probably more for service-based businesses, or businesses where you need to communicate. I think something that I wish I had known is that if a client is coming to you and they are not willing to jump on a call or not giving you feedback at the different stages of the project, that is probably a red flag and you're probably going to have issues with that down the track. And so communication is really key, and just making sure that the clients and the people that you're working with are communicating with you and you are communicating with them.
I think that's really important too, especially in in the graphic design business, and I'll only just mention I recently had a client come to me for coaching, and she
Mm,
discussed that she had issues with her graphic designer. But the issue was there wasn't a communication. She wasn't clear on what she wanted. So she rocked up and she went, "This is my business, do whatever." Well, the graphic designer is a creative, is very different to what she's going to see your business or that person's going to see your business as than what the client was seeing her business as. So then was getting all of these logos that weren't feeling in alignment, weren't feeling like she could touch in the business. But as you mentioned, it was because there was no communication there. So I think it's got to be very much when you also seek a graphic designer to make your job easier, being very clear on what you want.
mm.
And even if it is the colors or the font or whatever, and it looks put together and it looks like shit, um, then don't do it. And of course, use your expertise because you have the expertise, and this would probably give it a more feminine feel or whatever for the industry. But as you mentioned, communication is so important because if you don't have that communication, that client I was speaking to now feels like she was ripped off by the graphic designer, but it probably wasn't the case. It's just that there was a lot more toing and froing while they were trying to get to where they thought they needed to get to create this cohesion between each other and to create this logo and this brand and everything. So I think that is really, truly important. Not that everyone jumps on a call these days. As you probably know, they love text messages or emails and paper trails, or they just don't talk to someone. But communication and having what you feel for the brand, being able to communicate that to the graphic designer or to the creativity, and not just for branding. You mentioned print media, so packaging, book covers, things like that business owners do. Sort of having an idea and being clear and communicating is so important, not just in that aspect, but I think any aspect in business, really. If
Yeah,
there's,
100%.
I think we need to realize that we're not mind readers. No
Mm.
matter how much TikTok we like I'm a TikTok. So no matter how much TikTok we scroll, like we still have no idea, like we're not mind readers. So people need to keep that in mind. So I think that's an amazing piece of advice. Other than the business, though, you wish you knew that when you started a business. Say that I'm a new business owner and I'm getting into, do I just need a logo? I'm guessing is my answer because I don't know if you've noticed, but I notice a lot in the community chats, sometimes in the ALIBI group, everyone's just fixated on a logo. Like I just need a logo. And that's also when they do Canva, whatever the logo is. But they think all they need is a logo to start a business, to run a business, to do a business. But for me, I understand there's more behind that. How would you explain it best? Because you're the expert.
Um, so I think a lot of the time when people hear brand, they do just think logo or maybe color palette or fonts, that kind of thing. But your brand it's so much more. It's absolutely every way that a client or a customer might perceive your business. And so if you are just getting started, you might just want a simple sort of brand guidelines. We personally would never do just a logo because we've seen that doesn't work. You don't get any sort of return on investment for just a logo, and it doesn't help you stay consistent and build your brand, basically. Um, but what we do as well for our most basic brand package that we offer, it includes your logo, your color palette, your fonts. It includes some really basic brand strategy because everybody needs that for their business, and some visual elements to go with it. And that really helps you keep everything consistent. And that is, we wouldn't do anything less for people, basically. I know a lot of people do come to us and they'll go, well, we can't afford it, we just want a logo. But your brand is, or getting a visual identity is an investment in your brand, in your business, basically. Um, but yeah, as I said, branding is everything. It's the way that you talk to your customers. It is the way that your website looks. It's the way that you work through your website, the consistency, the flow, everything.
Beautiful. I think, and that visual representation you mentioned, it is so important. Like we know when we're seeing like the big, like Kmart and Big W, and we know what to see. We know how they talk to customers. We know their colors that come up. So your visual identity is important. You want customers, no matter if your post gets shared somewhere or if you're wherever you're commenting or whatever's happening, it's out there. Like even look at, I know the recent events of Wendy's throwing shade at people. Wendy's has been throwing shade at people, which is an American brand if no one notices, but their whole thing is throwing shade at people. in their visual identity and when they show up. So you know if there's a comment like that, it's probably coming from Wendy's. They're quite known for it now. Not small businesses and the listeners to throw shade at people unless that's your brand, unless that's a part of
Yeah.
your what you're doing. Please don't just go randomly throw shade at people. But it is about your visual identity and how important that is. So, what about if someone wanted to come to you for a rebrand? Now, a rebrand is a big thing. Say they started off with a logo, they maybe don't love the logo anymore, or they're like, you know what, now is time to invest. I want to be more like a brand that is well known and recognized. Is rebranding like, how does that work?
So there's two kind of approaches that we usually take. We can either go down the brand refresh or a full rebrand, depending on what your business needs are. Typically, what we do before we do anything, we always jump on a discovery call, which is where we learn more about the business, what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve. Because you might come in thinking you need a full rebrand, but maybe you just need a light brand refresh. Um, the difference between a light brand refresh and a rebrand would be a light brand refresh would just be something like maybe you're slightly altering the logo, altering the colors, making it a little bit more modern or up to date so that it doesn't have that sort of dated feel. Most brands will do this every 5 to 10 years. And if you're doing a full rebrand, that could be anything from completely changing the logo or building out your brand more, or maybe even changing the business name because it's not working for you or you've had a trademark issue, something like that.
You mentioned trademark, which I was just so if you've trademarked a logo or you've trademarked a name of your business, what would rebranding affect that? Does that mean you have to apply for a new trademark or how would that work?
Yes, if you have a trademark on a logo or a brand name and you want to change that, you would have to apply for a new trademark on that new name or logo. Yeah.
But this is where a brand refresh could sort of go, hey, I've got a trademark on this. Is there any way you can maybe zhuzh the rest of it around it, I guess, potentially, until they're ready to do that?
Yeah, definitely. If you've already got a strong brand, but you just need to make it a little bit more accessible for you or slightly pivot in a way that's going to reach, say you have a new product or a new client base, new offering, something like that. You just need a slight pivot so that it's approaching the right people. That would definitely be a great option.
Beautiful. So, what's your, if you're willing to share, of course, what's your ultimate goal for your business moving forward?
I would love to grow Chaos Agency into a small to medium size agency where we can work with more brands, but within a still within a small scale. I don't ever really want to get too big because a big part of what we do is we work really, really closely with our clients. And one of our clients that just started with us at the beginning of the year, he said that the reason that he chose us was because he knew that he would get to work with us, the founders, the people who are going to be, you know, the professionals, I suppose, in the business, as opposed to being handed off to just a junior designer and never getting to talk to us again. So we want to grow, but still maintain that customer service approach where we can be really close with the clients and help work through their goals and help them achieve them.
Beautiful. I think that sounds nice. Whatever works for you, whatever success is for you. Like, not everything needs to be, I guess, massive and, you know, staff and all of that sort of stuff. So, as the branding expert with all of your chaos agency, if there was a tip you'd give small businesses in regards to that, what would it be? Like a taste tester before they come and check out chaos agency and book in a call.
I would say, I mean, first of all, I would say, and this might ruffle some feathers, but I would say to steer clear of, um, I would say to steer clear of Canva templates, but also websites like Fiverr and Upwork. And well, they are good sometimes, and there are definitely good designers on those platforms. But because they are such low paying platforms, a lot of the designers that are on there are less experienced or not giving you the same level of strategy and things that you would get from another designer. And so I would say that if you are looking for a designer, whether it's us or another agency, a freelancer, I would treat it like you were looking for a new tattoo artist. um, do your research, look through their portfolios, make sure that you have the same vibe or they have the vibe that you are looking for. And do your research on what they actually offer. We try to make sure that we have everything communicated on our website so that people know exactly what they're getting into. And then we give them the chance to ask us any questions or explain the process on the discovery call. I think, as I said, communication is a really big thing. But yeah, just do your research and find a designer that is going to be right for you, essentially.
Beautiful. I think that that analogy is so good as well. Like tattoos, and we've seen the bad tattoos. Like there's always a this is your $50 tattoo and this is your $500 tattoo as an example. So, and if you set it up right the first time, you're then not having to worry about rebranding. You're not having to worry about trademark issues. You're not having to worry about all of that stuff because it's set up right the first time. And then you've got it going and you can keep going down the track with your business. And 5 years later, you still got that visual representation that you're showing up. So, you know, if someone is TikTok scrolling and they're seeing your photos later, they're seeing that you've kept consistent and that your branding and everything is consistent from the start. So I think that is really important. And it is, at the end of the day, it's get what you pay for. Like you don't buy clothes at Kmart and expect them to last 4 years, for
Yeah.
example. You're getting what you pay for. So I think that is an absolutely fantastic analogy. So Rosie, where do we stalk you? Where do we come and find you and check out all of your amazingness and the amazingness of the Chaos Agency?
So you can find us on socials on TikTok at Chaos Agency, on Instagram, Chaos Agency underscore. And you can find us on our website, which is probably the best place because it's got literally everything up there. We've got some free quizzes and some really fun things, which is just chaosagency.com.au.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your journey, and your escape from being a Mac monkey into studying amazing business.
Thank you so much for having me.